with the first pick in the NFL offensive draft.
Wow, I appreciate it. I didn't think I was just going to come on the podcast and get the first pick, but I will absolutely take it. I'm not going to turn it down. Now, the interesting thing here, if this was a quarterback draft, it is a no-brainer. I take Patrick Mahomes number 1 overall. I don't think anything about it. But when you look at an entire offense, it's not just the quarterback. I've got to think about the receivers, the offensive line, the running backs, maybe even the coach calling the plays. There's so much that factors into it. And so with that in mind, I am taking the Baltimore Ravens with my number 1 overall pick. This is a team that I think they averaged the most offensive yards per game last year. They were 3rd in points per game. Obviously, Lamar Jackson, the most electrifying player in football. Derrick Henry. They signed DeAndre Hopkins. And even if he's only half the DeAndre Hopkins he used to be, if he can stay healthy, that's a pretty good signing. They just gave an extension to Rashad Bateman. So, Kyle, am I surprising you here with the Ravens going?
Dude, I love that pick. And I had you penciled in as a Bengals guy, you know? So I had a bunch of trash talk ready for the Cincinnati Bengals. But, how the turntables, because I'm going to have to pick the Bengals with the second pick. And I love everything you said about the Ravens. And they were the number 1 offense last year. And I can't remember back to the time that a team did number 1 back-to-back years. But if there was ever a guy that I think could be responsible for that type of feat, it's Lamar Jackson. And with the right side of that offensive line developing and continuing to grow together with Falele and Rosengarten, their right tackle, they are a purple tsunami. A lot of fun to watch that offense, and with the ball handling and the real threat of Derrick Henry, who is just getting $30 million breach. Come on, he's earning it. So the number 2 pick, Cincinnati Bengals, 3-headed monster, health question marks and developmental question marks for me. With Amarius Mims, how much better is he going to get? Because as an offensive lineman, I watch him and I say, my God, God touched him. Mom, Dad, and God. Those are the 3 guys that Amarius Mims, the 3 people Amarius Mims should thank every day when his size 18 feet hit the floor. He should be thanking them because he's touched, he's gifted. If he continues to develop, this offense truly is going to be even more dangerous than it was last year. I need the left tackle, my buddy, to stay healthy over there. And if those 2 things happen, the Bengals could be at the top of the board offensively. They could get to the dance without a defense. If the defense just sneezes a little bit, they're going to be in the dance.
Yeah, you know what? I obviously love that pick as the ultimate Bengals homer. And I will say that I did think about taking them 1st overall. And the deciding factor did end up being the offensive line. Just look, we know the Bengals have question marks on the offensive line. As you said, if Amarius Mims turns the corner this year, then this could be a great offensive line. Joe Burrow actually be protected. But for now, just a couple question marks, especially in the guard spots. All right, I guess we are going the 3rd overall pick. Oh, man, this one's tough, but I'm going to stick in the AFC. I'm going to go – we've got 2 AFC teams so far. I'm going to go with the Bills. I think we got the reigning MVP, Josh Allen. You look at that offense. I know there are a few question marks with James Cook, who apparently is just not going to show up this year until they give him a new contract. And if that were to linger on into training camp and he doesn't show up for that, then maybe my mind changes a little bit. But for now, they are, to me, the 3rd best offense. They don't have quite the weapons of the other teams we just talked about, the Ravens and Bengals, because you're looking at Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakur. They don't have that name brand receiver. But when you have Josh Allen, your receivers don't have to be as great. Your offensive line doesn't have to be as great because his mobility is so good. So this one pretty much reflects on how highly I think of Josh Allen.
You know what? It's funny that you mentioned the offensive line doesn't have to be that great. You and I both know with this Bills unit, they're a pretty darn good unit. And I always talk about them in that elite class of offensive lines, particularly because they've got the 2 things you really want with it. So guards, you mentioned guards for the Bengals. I think that the guards are paramount. If you've got good guards, you're going to be set. Tackles, let alone both tackles being good, are a luxury. The Bills have that. Josh Allen does a great job stepping up in the pocket and then out when those tackles run people by. Special group. Question marks, Dalton Kincaid. Is he going to turn the corner? Is he going to be able to take the next step? Because my guy Pete Prisco thinks he's going to win the MVP every year. So moving on. Love the pick, by the way. Josh Allen, superhero. Seriously, a superhero. He's a guy that other guys in the NFL, they look at him and they say, man, I wish I could be like Josh.
And he just got married. He's like Renner. He's trying to steal Renner's thunder here. What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, both those guys so handsome, Mike Renner, Josh Allen, and they both outkick their coverage. So I'm going to be moving on to a group that I think, this is a philosophical debate. Is it Johnny's and Joe's, or is it X's and O's, Breach? There's a lot of people that would argue that it just matters who you got, not who's moving the pawns around the board. That being said, the Detroit Lions. Okay. I'm going to go with the Detroit Lions. Same guys on the field. Now we find out if it really is X's and O's or if it truly is Johnny's and Joe's. John Morton, receiver background, more of the same from this offense. This group knows how to do one thing, and it is block MFs, okay? They can block people. They can get the front side absolutely dented with Penei Sewell. They can cut off anybody, track star, second and third level on the backside with Penei Sewell. Obviously, Taylor Decker getting up there in age, but as a left tackle, you can kind of technique your way into wins. Obviously, the running game is still going to be a big staple in that offense, but I think that they're going to have a lot more passing built in as an extension of the running game. I think more explosives could happen in the passing game on these short passes. Let me get the Lions here with this pick.
Yeah, man, and the Lions are loaded. I think a lot of people forget they were the team that led the NFL in scoring last year. Obviously, they do lose Ben Johnson. That's a little bit, but all the key personnel is coming back. So as long as you don't go in there as the new offense coordinator, try and reinvent the wheel, I feel like the Lions are pretty solid. All right, at 5th overall, look, this is a guilt pick. I'm not going to lie. I can't let Patrick Mahomes fall out of the top 5. I don't know that I think the Chiefs overall are a top 5 offense, but if Patrick Mahomes is your quarterback,
the ceiling.
That's it. In good conscience, I can't let him go. So I'm going to take the Chiefs at 5, even though we could probably make an argument that there are probably 2 or 3 other offenses out there that might have made more sense in this spot. But when you have, if Travis Kelce is going to retire after the season, if this is going to be his last dance, I think we're going to see a motivated Travis Kelce. We've already seen the pictures of him working out in Florida all offseason. He seems re-energized, reinvigorated. So I think we could see a big year, even though he's getting older. Obviously, some question marks on the offensive line. You got rid of Joe Thuney. You're going to be working in a new left tackle. So you don't know how that's going to work out just yet. But again, Rashee Rice, the Worthy, they've got some good receivers, and obviously Patrick Mahomes.
Well, I'm so glad that you took the Chiefs. Well, actually, it pisses me off that you took the Chiefs because I was going to take the Chiefs because, like you're saying, with all of these positions and question marks, it's a ceiling thing. It's like there is no ceiling with this roster, with this offense, because of the guys that you talked about. Rashee Rice was a true number 1 into his injury, and like at the time of his injury, he was one of the best, most dynamic playmakers in the National Football League. Xavier Worthy just started to come into his own at the end of the season. And for a while there, I thought he was too damn fast for his own cleats because he'd run these crossing routes and end up out of bounds, Breach. He'd catch the ball, couldn't get 2 feet. He's too fast. So they slowed him down a little bit with some of the concepts. I like that. And the offensive line is a group that could be even better than last year's group if they can get Josh Simmons in the building and healthy and do it the right way with him. And obviously, Kingsley's going to have the opportunity to work inside a guard if he wants to, and if he wants to compete there. Wanye Morris, still a dude that, obviously has some experience, but they're going to look vastly different up front, but they could be even better than years past. Okay, a group that's going to look different than years past, but I think that they have an opportunity to look better than years past. I'm going to go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Ooh.
Now, I'm a South Florida native now. I'm on the wrong coast to cheer for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Everybody around here wears turquoise where I live. But if I was from Florida, I would root for Baker Mayfield every week, twice on Sunday, because he's so much fun to watch. And it's fun to watch them develop every year as an offense because they got a new coordinator every other year. And this year, no different. And you throw in Emeka Egbuka in there at the receiver position, and it's just another guy for Baker Mayfield to utilize. And when I think about Baker, I just think about a guy who is a true competitor. The guys play hard for him. You're never out of a fight with Baker Mayfield as your quarterback. He's got that Mahomes effect where it's like, just give Bake the ball. Like, it doesn't matter what stadium you're playing in, what city you're playing in, Baker gives you a shot to win. They have stars at the quarterback, running back, receiver, offensive line positions. I love this group, and I think they're going to put up a ton of points this year.
Yeah, I think this is a sneaky good pick. I was actually thinking about taking them at 7th overall, so you just went in and stole them from me. Look, the Buccaneers, the only team in the NFL last season that finished top 4 in rushing yards and passing yards per game. And again, somehow, maybe it's because it's Baker Mayfield. Maybe it's because they're the afterthought in Florida behind the Dolphins, as you just mentioned, Kyle. But people just kind of overlook the Buccaneers, even though all they do is go out and win the NFC South every year. And here's a fun fact about that Buccaneers offense. There were 14 players that caught at least one receiving yard last season. All 14 of them are back this year. So Baker Mayfield might not have his offensive coordinator returning, but he does have every single player that he threw at least one pass to, which I think is probably gives the quarterback a lot of confidence